This video is sponsored by Dan Walter. Do you suffer from bad credit? Are you tired of high interest rates? Or are you trying to buy a house? Well, Dan can help you out. I'm a client of Dan myself, but we'll talk more about that at the end of the show.
Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's really important to build people's business. Like I'm really actually getting the hang of shopping local, being in this little town in Valley City. I don't shop at Walmart. I shop at the meat market, which I'm on a keto diet, so I eat practically nothing but meat. Uh, I try to buy things local now as opposed to online. That's kind of a new thing, but yeah. Anyway, I think it's really important to support the guests, and if they are self-employed or if they're trying to make a name for themselves, or if it would help them out,
Yeah,
let's,
I
let's
really
plug it.
appreciate that too. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm
Um,
gonna actually leave what contact information I can in the description of this video for anybody who's actually interested in fixing their credit with Dan.
okay.
And
I could
and
show like one of my business cards. You can copy it
yeah,
or something.
exactly. Perfect. All right. So
It's
let's
like,
start out. How you doing? Actually, how is it today in Texas?
pretty good. It's storming today, so I guess I'm kind of used to that. But it's actually storming. It doesn't usually thunder in Washington, so it's kind of
Yeah,
nice.
that's now that we say that, let's talk about that for a second. Washington, that was a crazy place because you're right. I never actually saw lightning. I heard thunder once, and I thought about it when I heard it. I was like, wait, I haven't heard that in a long time. And
Yeah,
it was like one random thunderbolt, thunderbolt, lightning bolt, and I don't know, it was so weird. It does rain often, but really it's just like fall. It's like mist more than it is rain a lot of times. Well, I was there in the summer, so
yeah. No,
I have
you're
no
right.
idea.
It is like that.
I uh I actually experienced the beautiful part of Washington because I got there in the spring and left in the fall, so I never actually experienced
Oh wow. Yeah,
the
that
rainy
is the best.
gloom.
That is, this past year, I think it got up to 95, or I think it maybe barely hit 100 at one point, and man, everybody was just lining all the rivers. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah, that is pretty cool actually. I remember when I was there, it got to like 94, and they were calling it an intense heat wave.
Yeah,
Teaching people how to
yeah,
they
they
were
get
teaching
a
people how to hydrate their pets and stay alive.
exactly. It's like when it gets 100 teens here.
Yeah, exactly. It's really funny, but I mean, it's cool. It's kind of like in Texas I live in North Dakota right now, where it's actually a very nice winter. It's winter really hasn't happened yet. I don't think it's gotten below zero more than one day, which is it's supposed to be like -20 right now.
Wow.
It's like above 20 in the day. It's
Yeah,
been
I
a
think
nice
just
winter.
about the whole week that that I came back here, it was colder here than in Washington. Um,
Oh yeah. No, actually, I remember. So there was a little bit while I was traveling. I kept an eye on Seattle and Dallas, and most of the time Seattle's warmer in the winter. I mean, they're about the same, to be
Yeah,
honest.
it's definitely more mild. It's extreme swings here, and you get a lot of
Yeah, I'm
people from
surprised.
Texas telling you to, um, or oh, I don't want to move up there because I don't like the cold. It's like, well, you're in the cold.
Yeah, exactly. Like I'm surprised too, because from North Dakota, like on latitude wise, it's the same. Like you. Whenever I travel from North Dakota to Washington, it was it was a straight shot sideways, west.
Yeah,
But yeah, so it's amazing. North Dakota's it's odd. Like the mountain ranges both funnel the Arctic Canada wind straight into North Dakota. It's there's a reason geologically why North Dakota's so shit.
yeah,
But
that's funny.
geologically is the reason why it's so cheap here. So that's why I'm here.
Yeah, yeah, it's not cheap.
But yeah, Seattle was beautiful. I'm glad I'm really not there through all this 2020 and everything. I really don't know how bad that was, but I'm I don't know.
Yeah, things are
I really
definitely
enjoyed it
more
when I was
strict
there.
there. It depends on how you feel about the COVIDs.
Exactly. Yeah, that's really we had it pretty easy here, luckily. Well, yeah. So so you started out when I met you first. You were in
Correct.
motocross,
Yeah, motocross.
and yeah, I remember you drove a YZ 250.
450.
YZ 450?
Yes. Yeah, I had a few of them.
Nice. It was a 452 stroke, or was it? Oh
Uh,
no, I'm talking about the
oh
YZ2
yeah,
stroke.
YZ252 stroke. Yeah, I forgot about that one. That was actually bored out to 265. It had about 14.2 to 1 compression or so. It
Nice.
ran only on race gas or it'd blow up. Man, that thing was that would get it. Fifth gear wheelies, just rolling on the throttle.
Yeah. So what's the difference? It's a two-stroke and four-stroke for this, because this is like a mechanic podcast right now.
Okay,
It's really the four-stroke is one every fourth stroke it fires, and the two-stroke is one every two strokes. So theoretically and kind of mathematically, the two-stroke would put out twice as much power as the four-stroke.
correct. Yeah. Um,
So when you made the transition from the two-stroke to the four-stroke, what were your thoughts, and why were you satisfied or dissatisfied?
um, well, I actually kind of went back to the two-stroke when I got that 250. They're they tend to be faster, like if they were drag bikes, but they wear you out faster as well. So my kind of thought process was that I would ride the two stroke for a while, a couple of years to get used to working harder to go as fast, and then when I decided to have a little bit more of an edge, I would get back on the four stroke. It seemed to work pretty well.
Nice. Actually, I watched you race a lot. We lived together. For people that don't know us, we lived together for quite a while. I think it was 3 years, and then a year away, and then I came back for 2 more years. So it was like 5 years total. It was a long journey, an amazing journey. I actually really appreciate it. This is the first podcast I've ever done, and it's an honor having you as a guest. Dan
Thanks.
Walter is one of the best mechanics I've ever met, and I've met a lot of mechanics. I always work on my own things, so I collaborate with people who know more than I do, and I've met a lot of great mechanics as well. And this guy, he's there one day. I hope he gets noticed, and you know, it'll be good things.
Thanks. Yeah,
Uh,
I'm not so great at making money at it, but I love doing interesting things and learning and doing things that are maybe less common knowledge.
Yeah, so that's motocross is awesome. Honestly, I to stick with it just a little bit longer. I'm a breakable guy. I watched Dan Walter fall from like 50 feet out of the air, like separated from his bike, and landed. And like I think you dislocated your shoulder on that, like, but you didn't break. That's nuts.
Yeah, the shoulder still pops a little bit if I move it right.
I
So,
remember when you were doing the cross country races, you were talking about going head first into a tree at one
oh
point.
yeah, I remember that. That one was really fun. It just
Yeah, the pads I guess, were the part that saved your life there.
yeah, it was my neck brace. My helmet connected with my neck brace, so instead of pushing my head down, or well, I mean, instead of pushing my neck down and compressing it, it transferred most of the energy to my shoulders. I actually didn't really get hurt at all from that one. That was interesting.
Yeah. That would have been really, since you weren't hurt, that would have been really cool to get on video. Like, it'd be, I don't know,
Yeah, I don't remember if I was
something like
filming
an
them, but
accident inside.
I was doing a lot of
So,
GoPro stuff back then. There could be some footage of it, but I feel
yeah.
like I may have saved it if I knew I had footage of that.
So yeah, motocross. I mean, that's like physically demanding. It's not only physically demanding; it's mentally demanding. Everything is like on the spot mentally. Like, just there's no thinking. It's intense how people. I just watched Dan go from like zero to like at the bottom of a ramp, like, fall, get up, and then from the bottom of the ramp just ramp up. Just clear 50 feet. It's crazy. Like, that's a crazy sport. But now let's move on to what your passion is now. Let's move on. What the video is really about is your race car.
All right.
How Let's go on to your Mustang. Dan has a YouTube channel for the Mustang, by the way. There's a couple videos on it. What is your YouTube channel called? Do you remember?
I think it was Slide Stang, and it's TurboMustangGuy now, and the
Okay,
Instagram is as well.
I'll leave his link inside the description. So that'll make it easy.
Yeah, I figured that'd be a
Uh,
little easy to remember. He's the Turbo Mustang guy.
yeah. Okay, okay, turbo. Let's start there. Like I remember the last time I had looked at your videos on YouTube, you had your turbo at the back of your car, like at the back of your exhaust. Is that
Yeah, I need to
right?
make some more updated videos. I actually ran it. I took the turbo off of that location and ran it without a turbo for a while because I was having some unknown issues that ended up being oil pressure and lifter issues. Um, but the turbo was complicating things, and I did make the system with scrap metal and stuff, so it was kind of hard to keep it from leaking. Um, but fundamentally, when I didn't have leaks from scrap metal, it worked a lot better than the keyboard warriors want to tell you online. Um, it's back up front now, just because I don't have a radiator up front. I have plenty of room up there. And it's a little bit lighter not to have an exhaust system all the way under the car.
What kind of turbo do you have? What ratio, if that makes sense?
It's a 76 millimeter on 3. It's their most popular size. I think it's a yeah, I don't remember the AR, but it's 76 millimeter compressor. I just got a truck with a 302 in it. Pretty soon I'm gonna get a billet 84 millimeter for the Mustang, and hand me down the 76 to the truck, just for towing. It's not gonna be crazy.
Nice. So you have the truck already? Like you tow your Mustang, right?
Yeah, I just picked it up 2 days ago. I haven't towed the Mustang with it yet. It needs some work, but it's a lot of truck for the price I got. I bought it, changed the oil, drove it a couple hours back and forth to see my mom and pick up my son from the airport.
Nice.
It needs work,
so
but I can get it and drive it right now. It's pretty cool.
What is it? Is it a diesel?
95 F-150, and it's got the 302, so it's actually the smaller version of the engine that's in the Mustang.
Okay, yeah. That makes sense. That's not bad. It's convenient having a gas one. Honestly, I wanted a diesel engine for a long time, but I'm thinking against it, especially living up north. It's just not a good idea.
Yeah, it was great. If I had like a brand new 7.3, I would never get rid of it, but mine needed work, and a turbo 302 or 351 can pull a car to the track just fine. It might take a little more fuel, but it's with me maintaining the race 351 at 6 to 800 horsepower, what is a daily driver at 500? It's what it is super easy for me to maintain. So that's kind of where I'm going with that.
Nice. Yeah, so what is your Mustang at right now? You said about 6 to 8?
Currently, I have it at minimum boost, which is just over 600 crank. It's probably like 580 at the wheels. And it's still pretty fun to drive like that, but I had some machine work done in Washington by a shop I haven't been to, and there's a bit of a noise that I think is coming from the bottom end, so I need to drive it some more and do some oil changes before I go back up to the fun zone, and about 15 pounds of boost, 800 horsepower. I just need to make sure that I'm not tearing up bearings before I turn it back up. And if so, now that I'm back in Texas, I can I'm going to plug, they're not my sponsor, I just love their work, Power Dynamics in McKinney. If this last machine shop messed it up, I'm going to feel much more comfortable taking it back to Power Dynamics. I know they're going to do it right. They did it right the first time. The only reason it needed work was that I messed up tuning. I know what hurt it. It was fine at 800 horsepower until long story short, I accidentally did a pull on gasoline instead of E85 at full boost, which it shouldn't have done. And then, bad things happen.
What engine? Describe your engine right now. Like I understand you took your bottom end and top end are different. From different.
Kind of. It's more like an aftermarket top end. So the engine came out of a 92 F250 that had a 5.8 in it. So that's a 351. and then it has a bigger crank in it with a longer stroke. So now it's about a 395 or a 6.5 liter. Um,
Jeez.
and then it's got just some cheap aluminum heads that flow a little better than stock. It's got a hydraulic roller cam, but with solid lifters on it because of the issue I ended up having. It's a little uncommon, but it works better that way with my oil pressure and my. Really, it's band-aiding my low valve spring pressure. I need, tighter valve springs, but.
Speaking of oil pressure, did you ever install that? At one point I was over at your house and you were looking up. It's like a syringe for oil, so that when you're in tight, like G's during corners, it like would keep your oil pressure
You're
high.
Yeah, an oil accumulator. So what that does is it's like a cylinder, and it has a floating piston inside of it. And on one side of the piston, there's air pressure. You'll preload it with like 5 to 10 psi, and then on the other side is just connected to your oil system. So whatever your oil system pressure is, and then that will equalize that piston, but it'll keep the air and oil separate. And then if you ever do anything, like you said, go around a corner, or if something catastrophic happens to your oil pump drive or something, if you lose oil pressure, it'll give you a few seconds of oil pressure before it just drops to zero. So it can save an engine from a lot of really bad things that can happen at the track. It gives you just an extra 2 seconds to shut it down before
Yeah, that makes
you
sense.
grenade it.
Like engines on the daily drive, man, they barely do much. They last a long time, but on the racetrack, those engines they're trying at all times, like they're working hard.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So you have one of those on your car now?
I do. Yeah, and whenever it's active,
Nice.
there's a red light, or two red lights actually, on my dashboard that'll indicate to me that it's running. So if I'm, full throttle in the middle of a drift and I see one or both of those lights come on, I know to shut it down right away, because there should definitely be oil pressure. But if those lights are on, it also means that I'm getting that little safety oil added, so it can really save an engine.
Nice. Yeah, that's really cool. Let's let's go ahead. Hey, let's talk about tires. Where do you get your tires? What size rims do you use, and why did you choose if I could, how many rims do you have? And let's elaborate about that.
Okay, so right now I only have 6 wheels that I run, because I've been running. When I first started out, I was, like everybody, you think you get used tires and it's cheaper, but they really just wear out quick, and you end up, you need to bring 12 sets of wheels to the track, and you're always changing them. It's just more work than it's worth, and you don't save as much money as you think. So I've been running basically the cheapest new tires I can find that are decent.
Yeah, they're like $45.
They're like 70, 80, depending on
Wow.
what you
Okay,
get.
that makes sense. Okay.
The
Yeah,
Kendos
it
are
makes
really
sense because of the
popular.
tire size. Yeah.
Yeah, Kendos are really popular, but this year something's happening with shipping, and I think Chinese tariffs, and they are coming, but they're not going to be here till way late this year. So everybody's going to be searching for some other cheaper tire to run. I've been running the Achilles ATR Sport 2s. A lot of people talk trash on them, but I think they're just running them wrong. I think they run it with too much air pressure or something, because mine lasted, I had 2 pairs of those last, all year. Given it was in Washington, 2 or 3 of those events were wet ones, but 3 or 4 of them were dry ones, and I would just rip on one set for a few events and drive them to and from the events as well.
That is a big difference between used tires. Last time I went to one of your, it wasn't an event. It was just a day out on a track.
Yeah, you remember
just
that.
out there drifting. Yeah, pretty much giving rides. That was really fun. I brought my camera. I got a lot of good photos, and I missed that camera. That was a Canon Rebel. It's not the best camera, but it was nice. But But yeah, that was pretty cool. But I remember, man, we went through tires after tire after tire after
Oh
tire because they
yeah,
were all used. They're
spend
practically
more time
bald.
changing tires than driving.
Yeah, that's yeah. That's what I thought drifting life was. Still, to this day, that's interesting.
Yeah, I definitely drive more than change tires now, and it's pretty much just get any new tire and treat it right, keep it cool. Another thing is I'm gonna add a tire misting system, so I can cool them down in between runs. There have been a couple event organizers that would set up like a wet pad for drivers to drive on in between runs, and man, it
Nice.
increases tire life in just
That's not even that
exponentially.
hard for them to do. That's a good idea. They
Well,
literally just need to hose down the track for a second.
in Texas though, that gets really
Oh yeah,
expensive and difficult. So it's best to just
yeah.
put a mister system on your car, which I need to do pretty
That makes
soon.
sense. Yeah. Think about your fuel lines. I remember talking about your fuel lines are massive. Where is your gas tank?
It's currently in the back. It's in the trunk. Um, Kind of a little too high up for my liking because right now the radiator's underneath it, and the fuel cell can't be too close to it or the radiator won't be able to pull air in. I am
So
actually. What's up?
sorry, you have a radiator at the back of your vehicle.
Correct.
That's for extra cooling.
It's a few
Like,
reasons. When the car's sideways, you don't necessarily get quite as much air through the front grille as you normally would, going straight.
ah,
You don't necessarily get any better in the back, but it's kind of you don't necessarily get any better in the front either. So we move it to the back for weight distribution. It also adds volume to the cooling system. So what's up?
yeah. Sorry. Whenever I said adding cooling, like obviously adding another radiator, yeah, that's adding cooling. But it also helps not being in the engine bay as well. Like, yeah, you're getting exhaust heat and tire heat and all that, but you're not getting engine heat. I think that
Well, the
would
engine heat
would be
is
beneficial.
behind the radiator airflow, so it doesn't usually see engine heat up front. But definitely the capacity helps. If you're making more heat than your cooling system can keep up with, which happens frequently in drifting, especially with a turbo V8. You will. It helps to have a little extra capacity because it takes longer to put that heat into the coolant, even if the radiator's not keeping up. Which I didn't need in Washington, but that's gonna help in Texas. I'm actually gonna have to tune up my radiator misters to make sure those keep it cool as well. I have misters on the outside of the radiator to help kind of like evaporative cooling. It helps the whole thing work a lot more efficiently.
How often do you have to fill the reservoir, and how big is the reservoir for the misters?
It depends on the track, but it lasts surprise. I actually use the factory windshield washer reservoir and pump. I moved that to the back of the car as well, and
That's
then
intelligent. Yeah.
wired it up just to a switch. So I turn a switch on, and it constantly just sprays through a set of misters onto the
There you
radiator.
go.
And they're just
That's good.
garden misters from Home Depot.
But yeah, more about your race car. So we talk about you being a mechanic. You obviously you don't send your car in. Everything you've done, everything you do, it's all you, correct?
Well, I was talking earlier about the machine shop. So if I'm getting, obviously if I'm getting cylinders bored or something, I usually like to get bottom ends of V8s done at the machine shop. I can do most of the plane bearing work, but that gets pretty precise, and they have a few more tools than I do, and a lot of times you'll run into a situation where you need a few thousandths machined off of something.
Yeah,
It's just I usually will get a short block done at a machine shop, and then I'll put that together.
that makes
But
sense.
I
Yeah.
I am thinking about with the truck and this other sidecar I'm gonna hand me down the Mustang's engine to. I think I might play with doing some of the plane bearing and bottom end stuff myself since they're not gonna be as high strung as the race engine.
Nice. Yeah, that makes sense. I
But other than that, yeah, I build my own cages. I built some of the rear suspension components. anything that bolts on, I obviously am gonna do myself.
Your
Changes here and
cage,
there.
your roll cage, you welded it and like designed it and
Yeah, designed it, bent it,
bent it.
welded it,
Yeah.
everything. I might
Yeah.
want to redo it because when I designed it, I still had the top on the car, and I made it so the top could still function and latch and everything. So I could probably
Yeah.
use a little bit more cabin room now that I have no top.
Oh, you took the top out now.
It's gone. I threw it in the trash. Yeah.
All right. Well, you got a garage now, so you can.
Well, yeah, it was actually before that. I went and put some really nice suspension on the car, and we had it on the scales to corner balance it. And I mean, I knew it was a heavy car, and I knew it weighed that much, but seeing it on the scale made just lit a fire under my ass, and I just could not stop. I stopped thinking about what weight I could take out, so I cut half of the dash off completely. I completely gutted the doors. I took the windows out. I took all the metal structure that held them out. It's just the outer skins of the doors and the door latches now. It went on a pretty good diet, and I'm going to redo the front and back. I'm going to cut the frame rails as far forward in the back and as far back in the front as I can to leave the suspension intact, and then redo the structures to hold the components I have in a lot lighter way, because the front end doesn't hold a radiator anymore, it doesn't hold a condenser anymore, it doesn't hold pretty much anything, or the core support doesn't hold any of that anymore. And
Nice.
so it's just a whole bunch of extra metal I don't need at the front. So I'm trying to take overall weight down, as well as centralizing the weight in the vehicle, so there's not so much weight on the front end or rear end. Because if you think about it, when you go to, like, say you were spinning something, if the weight was far out towards the ends, it would be hard to spin it quite as fast. But if you move those weights farther in, then you can spin it quicker, and you can also change direction quicker. And so that's kind of the same thing when you're drifting, throwing the car sideways, or transitioning. Having the weight closer to the center is better than having it on the ends, which I wasn't super conscious of when I put it together. So especially the back of the car has just way too much weight hanging off the back. So I'm gonna move the
Yeah, that
radiator
makes sense.
farther forward and move the fuel cell farther down and as far forward as I can. And the batteries are already moved right in. They're right behind the driver and the passenger. Just trying to centralize the weight as much as possible and get rid of everything I don't need, because I have like weight loss fever on the car now.
Yeah. That's cool, yeah, because I remember you used to, well, I shouldn't say started out. I guess you kind of did in drifting. You started out with a Fox body.
Yeah.
Was it a 88?
I think it was an 86.
Okay.
It had the square headlights.
Yeah, that thing, you gutted that one. You gutted that right away.
Yeah,
That
but
thing-
not
that thing
nearly
was
as
like a
much as
tin
this
can.
one. That one still had windows
really?
and door skins on the inside and a full dash.
Oh, yeah.
This is
A roof.
yeah, and a roof.
And that hatchback, honestly, those big doors, they weigh a good amount.
Oh yeah, those are heavy. If you don't have the struts for them, it's a good bit to lift.
How many seats does your car have right now?
The Mustang, it has 2 seats in the front, and it has a baby seat in the back, but he's a little too big for it, so I'm gonna have to redo the back seat with. I'm thinking about getting a slimmer, larger child seat, or I might just take him to Smiley's Racing, the dirt track store down the road, and just find a real racing seat that fits him and just mount it.
That's what I was
properly.
gonna say. Maybe get a small racing seat. That would actually work out pretty well. What kind of seat belts do you have in your car right now?
It's 3-inch race quip, just harnesses. They're
Nice.
green to match the wheels.
Oh shit. What do they call it? The 3-point or whatever.
They're actually 5-point.
5-point. Nice.
Yeah, so there's a belt strap, the shoulder straps, and then a submarine strap. Scary one that makes everyone think they're gonna get hit.
Yeah. What do you still have AC in your car?
No, I did for the longest time, but when I moved to Washington, I kept the components in storage for a year, and then after a year of never wanting to put them back on, I threw them away. Yeah, but
Yeah,
now I'm back
honestly, here in
here,
North
so yay! I get to get
Yeah,
used to that.
exactly. In North Dakota, people use their air conditioning. Like, man, that's a waste of gas. We're only going like 20 miles an hour. Like, I've got a little engine, so like just turning on the AC, I know it. I can feel a difference. I do feel a difference in power, but I see the difference in gas too. By a big deal.
Yeah.
I don't think the big engines have that problem so much. At least it can power that condenser, a little easier in my imagination. But it takes a lot more power than people think. Do you still have an airbag? Like, do you still have your stock wheel?
You know what? I still do have my stock wheel and an airbag, and all my race car friends think it's hilarious to see how built the car is, but it still has a stock column and wheel.
Yeah, that's because you built the cage to where you can get in it without taking off the wheel, right?
Yeah, it's got a tilt wheel, so I tilt it up a little bit, and it's plenty of room to get out.
Oh yeah, okay.
But my weight loss fever is, I don't like looking at that column. I've taken it out a couple times. It's probably a good 50 pound, maybe 40 pounds. I could just get a super lightweight, just a bare steering shaft with a little carrier bearing that'll hold it up where it needs to be, and that would save a ton of weight. But I do street drive it, and I kind of like having the key, so I would have to come up with some other type of lock solution. I've been looking online at there's some companies that make aftermarket keyless entry, so I could set it up like a newer car where there would be no key. I just have the key with me, and whenever I'm nearby, my switch panel will activate, and then it'll work. But if I'm not by, the switch panel won't.
That'd be real fancy.
I think it would be really cool.
I think that'd be worth it, to be honest.
Yeah.
I'm experiencing that with my car. The ignition, I'm gonna call it the ignition switch, like the part where I actually put the key in, like it's breaking, and it's really annoying. It's the weirdest thing. It took me an entire winter to figure it out, because when it gets below 10 degrees, my car will not start. Like, it's the stupidest thing. Ooh. It's a degree thing, and it's been really annoying. But anyway, then I learned that if I jiggle the key around, move it around, it starts starting, and now it's getting a little worse. But I'm reluctant. I have the part. I have it. I can do it. Know how. I just don't want to do it, because then I'd have two keys. I don't want a key for my door and a key for my ignition. I'm like holding on to that one key system for now.
Yeah, this truck I got actually has. It doesn't come with any door keys. That's what you get when you get a sweet deal. It would have been nice if the dude let me know, because if I hit the door lock getting out of the car one time, I'd be locked out. Yeah. But I have new lock cylinders for the doors on the way, but I would have had to pay a little over twice as much. I paid about $50 for just lock cylinders for the doors, but there was a kit that came with lock cylinders and a new ignition cylinder that was like $100, and the whole idea of this truck is trying to save money, so I think I can live with having two different keys.
And I'll tell you, anybody trying to save money, don't get a Jetta.
Yeah,
dude,
that'll do it.
I always work on my own cars, and this is one. I don't like working on the car. I've got little hands. All right, this is a difficult car to work on. I changed the alternator, and I've got like half the car apart, like the entire engine bay is apart, because I just can't fit tools. My hands you have to take it all apart. It's annoying.
Yeah.
But on top of that, everything's expensive. The battery, the cheapest battery I could find that fits it is $250.
Oh my God, that's
like
more
the tires
than my, Optima batteries that I run.
Yeah.
Trying to be Mr. Fancy Pants.
And I don't even get why. It's a little car. It's a 1.8 engine. Like, what does it need? But as well, I mean, it's everything. My starter was in the hundreds, like by far, because when I was trying to figure out my key fob problem, I replaced all the ignition, everything. So now that's all good, but still. Uh, what's another example? My tires, like $250 each. It's like the car thinks it's a race car. It takes premium gas.
Wow. Yeah.
In the long run, I'm really glad I got it. It had 85,000 miles on it. I got it for $750. It was a really good deal, so I'm still happy with the buy.
Yeah.
But if you're buying an expensive old VW, think twice if you don't have a lot of money. It's expensive, and if I was paying somebody else to work on it, it'd be so much worse. So much worse. I miss trucks, like my old '90s trucks, man. You could literally like crawl into the engine bay while you're working on it.
Oh yeah, that's why I'm so excited about this new truck that I got. It's funny. I tell so many people, oh yeah, I'm so pumped. I got this truck, this old truck I'm fixing up, and it's gonna be really nice. And oh, what truck did you get? A '95 F-150. I feel so lame saying that, but my first truck was a '92. With a 5.8, pretty similar to this one, same size cab, 2-wheel drive. And then a couple years later, I had another '92 with the inline 6 manual. That was a 4x4 with a bunch of problems. It was an old farm truck. But yeah, I've had these trucks, and
I had a duplicate to that.
It's really nostalgic to me. So I don't really care about the square body Chevys or even like I saw a couple '70s F-150s that, man, they really did look way cooler. But I've never had one, so it's not as cool to me. So I'm excited about this one.
I'd say I had one of those Line 6s. I think it was a 3.9, 1990. I might have the liter wrong, but it was a straight 6 1990 F-150. That car was an old farm truck. The doors didn't shut for shit. Like, you had to slam them. I knew how to shut them right, but everybody else, man, they had to slam it. Because they sagged, because I guess they would drive the car and spray chemical, or did they do anyway? The doors would be open while they're driving over rough terrain, so they sagged really.
Yeah, I have new
really
driver's side hinges on the way because my driver door doesn't want to close.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. It's a common thing for work trucks. I mean, it just happened, and these are heavy doors too, in trucks in general.
Yeah.
Nowadays they're better, but that Line 6, I traveled around the country with it. I bought that truck for $700, and I was afraid to leave Valley City. And then I left and went to Seattle, and I put a big camper on it that was way too big. And anyway, it had like 300,000 miles when I got it. I drove around about 50 to 70,000 miles. I don't know. The speedometer stopped counting, or the odometer stopped counting. But that thing, eventually I gave it to my sister as a truck just to use around her land because I couldn't get it inspected. It was just way too old in Texas. It wasn't happening. And anyway, I think it still runs today. I think the clutch is out. But that Line 6, that was a crazy engine.
Oh yeah,
no horsepower.
They'll take such a beating. You can't hurt them. I mean, you can hurt.
Yeah,
anything.
I think so. I think it died. I think the engine was actually dead, but it was so powerful it just powered through it. I swear. There's like no power. Like, it had torque. I could tow anything, but it didn't want to accelerate fast, and it could not get above 60 miles an hour. It could not do it.
Yeah, there's
like
actually
a gust of wind.
There's a hot rod channel I like to watch on YouTube. I don't remember the name, but they got a hold of one of those. I think it's a 4.9 liter. It's the 300 inline 6.
Yeah, okay, the 4.9. Good. Okay, yeah, I said 3.9. Yeah, I think you're right.
They put it on an engine dyno. I think it made 93 horsepower or something like that. And they didn't even change the cam. They just changed the intake and the exhaust and let it flow more. And they picked up, I think, another 90-something horsepower, or almost another 90 horsepower. They nearly doubled the horsepower. It was, I think, 170-something.
That makes sense, knowing that engine. It did seem like it was choking.
Oh yeah, because it's meant for torque and low RPM, so they didn't care about airflow. So I mean, I was amazed that just an intake and exhaust would do that much on anything. Imagine if they put an actual cam in it, or maybe find a decent head with some better flow. Man, that thing will open up, and then put some boost on it, and then it's an inline 6, so it's inherently strong and balanced. Man, you could impress some people with one of those little old janky things.
Yeah. Luckily, that truck is still sitting in my sister's yard, and the owner is now my brother-in-law, and he can do something with that engine. I'm glad
Okay,
it's
yeah, that'd be
in that
really
hands.
cool.
But they essentially have a junkyard in their backyard and a full body shop with a lift and all that. I miss that actually. Here, it's cold, and I don't even have a garage. So when my car breaks down, it's really annoying.
Yeah, that was me the past 2 years. I'm so happy to have a garage here again.
So let's talk about your car again. I got the seat belts. So you got a powerful car. Whenever I've never had a powerful engine really. You know, like, I don't even know my horsepower now. It's not a lot. And when two people get in the car, let's say one other person besides me gets in the car, it's a significant difference in power and speed and in performance and all of that, even stopping.
Yeah.
Does your car experience that still with that much power? Do you feel a difference with another person?
I'm sure if I took it to a drag strip, you'd be able to see a little bit of difference in the time, but I don't notice it as a driver at all.
Okay, that's cool. That's good to know. I mean, I always wondered that because, like I was saying with my Jetta, like turning on the air conditioning changes so much.
Yeah, this definitely that's negligible power to this thing.
You know, I don't get people that work on these Jettas to make them fast because it's too light. The whole thing is made of aluminum. I get no traction. I have to put wheels on it that don't even fit to like get any type of traction out of there. It's not all-wheel drive, so I don't know. It's quick. It's got more power than I can grab. That it can grab. You know, that's the big problem. It's got tiny little gears.
Yeah, I think they
Tiny little
just like to
tires.
rip them on the highway. Oh.
Yeah, and even the highway, I don't actually like 80 miles an hour. I'm revving at like 3,500 RPM. I don't like it. The tiny little gears.
Yeah.
The engine handles it like it redlines it like 7.5, so it's not like working hard, but still. Are you still injecting the liquid to your turbo? The meth.
I actually
stuff?
inject it after the turbo now. There was a couple of reasons why I did it before. Before, I guess the main reason that I did it, that I thought of doing it into the turbo, into the compressor, was just cost. I was designing my own system with cheap parts and cheap pumps. And if you were to inject it after the turbo, like most kits do, you have to consider the fact that the turbo is going to be pressurizing your intake. So if you're using, a windshield washer pump like I wanted to use, the more boost you run, you're gonna significantly reduce the flow of your water meth if you're trying to push into it with a non-powerful pump.
Yeah, the ratio. You mean?
Yeah, so that was the main
Yeah.
reason I would inject before the turbo, so that I would just be injecting into atmospheric pressure and I wouldn't have to fight the boost inside the intake tubes.
Did you ever resolve the problem of pitting on the blades?
No, I wouldn't necessarily call it a problem on a race car. It's more like just another wear item. I ran, I think, a season and a half with the water injecting into the compressor wheel, and it didn't really seem like it was wearing it down. It's more like it kind of textured the outer surface, and then, I mean, I'm sure it was still causing some wear, but it definitely didn't take any large bits out that you could see. It just kind of was like it kind of just dulled the surface a little bit.
So, whenever I imagine a torque converter, I hate automatics. I'm gonna put that on the record. I think automatics are over-engineered pieces of shit. I hate it. And the torque converter is very highly like I think that was a very impressive invention, whoever invented the torque converter. But that's exactly how I imagine it to look like in the end of its life. Because essentially, for those who don't know, a torque converter it's a fan. It's like two fans inside of liquid, and one fan spins the liquid while the other one gets picked up by the momentum of the liquid that the first fan spins. So it's your power from your engine to your wheels are actually not connected by metal. It's actually connected by liquid through the torque converter. But the reason they do it is because the automatic transmission gives you the ability to stop while the engine still goes. So there's a 10% slip until you get to like 50 miles an hour, and then it locks up, and then they spin as one.
Yeah.
But because of that fan spinning in liquid, I'm wondering like how pitted are these things by the end of their life, and if they are at all. I have no idea. I've never seen the inside of a torque converter.
I think a lot goes into the design of the shape of those vanes so that they don't experience a lot of cavitation, because that's the main thing that's going to cause damage with fluid moving.
Yeah. Is it really air bubbles? And there's probably not much air bubbles in there too.
The cavitation kind of forces air bubbles to happen in it, but they quickly collapse, and that collapsing of those bubbles is it's a really strong force, and it's really directed. So that's why if you see any cavitation damage, you'll see like little tiny craters.
That makes a lot of sense what you just said. Yeah, that's a perfect that's the perfect explanation of it. But yeah, so those who say that automatics are just as fast as stick shift, just remember that 10% slip.
They also shift really fast, and
I mean, that is true.
At the drag strip, automatics are king, but how much fun can you have at a drag strip, right?
Yeah.
A little jab at the drag guys,
Yeah. Well, the big drag guys, that is an automatic technically, but that's a different type of transmission.
Are you
that's
talking about Top Fuel?
Yeah,
don't get me
that's
started
like
on Top Fuel facts. They actually don't have transmissions.
That's what I was saying. Yeah, that's different. They're not really shifting more than they are seizing each gear.
Yeah, they actually have a clutch that it just times how much it grips during the run. And so instead of a transmission, they kind of have a
failed,
I don't know what you would call it. It's like a simulated gear ratio by letting the clutch slip a certain amount. And yes, a lot of the plates do weld together by the end of the run. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I think that's like, there's a lot of really impressive industries, but I'll tell you that drag industry is definitely there.
Oh yeah.
The amount of power those things is almost like rockets on wheels, man.
They are. It's insane to think about the accelerator. I mean, it takes less than 4 seconds to get up to, I think they go over 300, right? 320 or so.
Oh, I wish I could say that fact. I don't know. It's fast, but you're right. It's up there.
It's either 320 or 2. But either way, in just a couple of seconds, 1 Mississippi 2, 3, bam, couple 100 miles an hour. What? Like,
yeah.
That must be mind blowing to be in one of those.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you couldn't even breathe. I've been inside of your car, and you feel your chest compresses. Like,
oh yeah,
when it's like full raw power, like you actually feel your everything compress into the seat. It's amazing.
I never thought about that, but I wonder if they do hold their breath during a run to keep their lungs inflated.
Yeah, I wonder if they have to exhale. It's like to be safe. It's like to go into space. Like how they say if you're going into space, you have to exhale first.
Yeah.
Or whatever. I wonder if that's a thing. I hope not. That would actually be bad, because I guess then you'd have no oxygen while you're being oxygen deprived.
Yeah, it's love
through G-forces.
It's love. I love to think about what it would be like in one of those, and just I love all the mind-boggling components on them.
Oh yeah. Oh my god. Like, oh shit. The wheels themselves are massive. Like, and the tires. I think every single part of that car is engineered to its fullest. How the tires compress and buckle to get more grip, so they flatten on the ground.
Yeah, if you see a picture of one of them fully wrinkled, the tire patch goes from like yay big to a couple of feet.
Yeah. Oh, that's crazy. The engineering behind it's nuts. And the fact that they stay on the ground too without lifting up, that's even more impressive. They don't wheelie. When they do, it's really bad, but here we go. So You got a lot of power. Do you have plans on adding power anytime soon to your car?
Yes, I actually have. So I have the truck that I was gonna put the Mustang engine in and make a new Mustang engine in, engine for the Mustang. But this 302 in the truck is a little peppier than I was expecting. I don't really feel like swapping an engine. I'd rather just put a little bit of boost on it and call it good. So the Mustang is going. I'm actually working on pricing it out in my free time here and there to see if I can actually do it. But I would like to build a better version of the Mustang engine. I probably can't afford an aftermarket block, but I can do a little bit better than what it has now. I can girdle the main caps. There's decent shaft mounted rockers, which are stronger valve train. But yeah, I want to build a little bit better version of the engine with some of the knowledge I have, and now that I'm not quite rushing on it, I can do things a little bit better. And then retire the Mustang engine into my Sylvia little right-hand drive convertible thing that I have. Its engine got a spun bearing, and
Okay.
I don't know, I just like my V8s. I kind of would rather just chunk a V8 in there and make the haters happy, right-hand drive with a big American engine.
Dude, that'd be so cool. It's right-hand drive. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I agree with you with the V8s. I think it was you. I'm sure actually it was you that gave me the passion for them. But it makes complete sense. Why would you spend $10,000 on a 4-cylinder just to get 600 horsepower?
I mean, there's reasons for it. If you have the money, it's kind of good to make, the same power with less weight. But, if you only have 4 cylinders making the same power, that's twice as much pressure you're going to need, essentially, in each one of those cylinders on each one of those rods. So it's...
And they don't last long. Those little engines pushing out that power. I know a guy with an Evo 8 where he had one. I don't know about now. This is years ago. But when the Evo 8, he bought it brand new and then put $10,000 into it. And I think it made like 10,000 miles before it blew. It was done.
Yeah, my last
that
engine...
could also be the driver.
Well, this engine that Power Dynamics put together did 11,000 miles before I... at about 600 horsepower before I messed up that one day. If I didn't mess up that one day, I'd be around 12,000 miles now, and it'd still be cranking out about 800.
Nice. What is the most power you've gotten out of your car?
Well, the most power I've dynoed it at was the low boost setting that it's at now. It's maybe 620 or something at the crank, 580 at the wheels. But,
Okay.
I mean, obviously, my butt dyno can tell you it was much faster with more boost. And also, it was, if you calculate how much fuel you're injecting, you can calculate how much horsepower worth of fuel you've injected. And then you also go and check your air-fuel ratio. And if you're not, super crazy rich, which would be you're just dumping fuel on your engine and not using it. If you're in a decent air-fuel ratio range, then you can sort of assume that you're taking that fuel, using it, so you should be making around that horsepower. And it was just over 800 horsepower with the fuel. And it was taking it. It was I think I was reading it in Lambda. It was around 7.5, 8, or 0.7, 0.8 or so Lambda. So it was taking it and it was eating it. And the butt dyno says I think it was pretty close to 800. It was very fun to drive. It was one of those things where you'll be doing a little test pull, you rip on it for a second just to kind of make sure the engine's running good, and before you know it, you have more speed than you were expecting, and maybe a corner's coming up. It's just it's the only thing I've ever felt that feeling on before was street bikes, like 1,000cc street bikes. You grab a bunch of throttle, and before you know it, you're like, oh, what am I gonna do with all this speed? the car kind of did that at 800.
We can actually talk about some of your bikes a little bit later on. That was pretty cool. You've had some bikes. How many miles are in your current engine? You said about 11?
Well, yeah, it's been to the machine shop at around 11,000. It went to that bad machine shop whose name we don't speak of. And he seemed really good at first. I was super excited, but the longer he had the engine, the more things he would say that revealed he had his knowledge, but he was really set in his ways, and he didn't think you could do anything any other way.
Yep.
And by the end of it, I think he just lost all care in my engine. I think something happened in assembly. Maybe he didn't machine a rod right or something. I swear it sounds like one of the bearings doesn't have the right clearance. At certain RPMs, you can hear what sounds like it could potentially be a rod knock, but it's hard to tell with engines built like this. So the real tell is going to be the second oil change, which is coming up in the next few days.
Yeah, it's really sad. I work in metal fabrication, and I think about that, because I make bus parts for a big company. But either way, people are going to be using these buses. Somebody's going to buy this bus, like. If I bought a $200,000 bus, I would really like to think that the person who made every part in that, I'd like to think that it was actually cared about, and done right.
Man, you should see this new truck I got. Oh, there are so many. So I got it. It didn't have functional brake lights when I got it.
Neither did my Ford. I wired it myself.
I took it home, checked a couple fuses. I found a burnt fuse. I said, oh, if a fuse is burnt, then, it could be a short. Let me try to plug a new fuse in. Boom, new fuse blows. Okay, so there's definitely a short. Glance under the dashboard. First thing you see right there, the wires to the plug for the brake light switch were jammed in between two pieces of metal from the dashboard being taken apart. And it was just, unscrew it a little bit, pull it out, wrap it up. I mean, you shouldn't have pinched the wires in the first place, but when you did all the work on the dashboard and your taillights don't work, figure out what you did wrong. And it only took a minute for me to fix. I'm glad, though, because I got the truck for cheap, but it's mind-blowing to see the bad things they did. The truck didn't want to start. When I went to go test drive it, obviously that helped me talk it down a little bit, but it was just because the terminals were, I saved the ends of the terminals. It was just like cobbled together. All the wires were frayed and corroded, and they didn't even have the terminals tightened down onto the battery. Like, it wasn't even finger tight. The nuts were backed off, and it's like, no wonder that thing didn't start. So the next morning, I just went out there, cut the wires back, put them on decently. Truck fires right up. I picked up an air filter for it at the store. I didn't look at the old air filter to see how dirty it was, but I was like, I'll just grab me a new filter. Went to go change it. No air filter. Just no air filter. Yeah, this truck's full of that. Bunch of very cheap.
The air filter's clogged. I should probably just take it out.
Yeah, that's who had the truck before me. But luckily the engine, I'm surprised, the engine runs super smooth. There's no engine noise coming from under the hood. It has 300-something thousand miles.
That says a lot.
Yeah.
Noise, like listening to your engine says a lot about the life of it, I think.
Oh yeah, it runs smooth.
Even in rockers or anything. I'm learning to listen. I've always known to listen, but I'm learning what I'm hearing more and more. As more and more parts break in my life, I'm learning sounds.
Yeah.
To recognize.
Yeah, it's crazy to hear the stock 302 versus my wide clearance solid lifter 351. there's definitely normal engine noises that come out that are way louder than the truck that are normal, which is why it's so hard for me to diagnose this machine shop's work, because it's I gotta try to pick noises out of normal noises, and there's one that I kind of don't like.
Are there any modifications to your car that you've done that you regret?
Um, hmm. I think I may have changed all the mods that I've regretted before. Let's see.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah.
On the Fox body, I very early on I went with really nice, strange axles inside the rear end, and I learned quickly that the factory axles can handle a good bit of power, and no matter what you're running, when you run into a wall, you're gonna bend it. So just run the cheap stuff.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, walls happen in drifting. You gotta obviously don't try to, but you gotta prepare that. Mentally. When you go to a track with a race car, this is why you don't drive your race car to the track. When you go to the track, you have to always understand that there's a chance that you might leave with a totaled car. Like that might be the last time that car runs that day. Hopefully, it doesn't happen, and you do your best not to happen.
Yeah, because then when it doesn't, you can celebrate.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a life of a racer, though. No matter what type of race, the higher speeds, the worse it is. But drifting, you're deliberately sliding sideways right next to walls, so it happens.
Yeah, if you're an adrenaline addict, though, it's very worth it. There's no way you can get that fix. I guess there are other ways you can get it, but it's a good one.
It's one day if I make a lot of money, I might be an enthusiast and start trying to drift, not compete, but I'll get a nice little car and do my shit.
Yeah, if you ever need something built, a nice big project. This is kind of my friend Shelby Taylor's dream. I kind of stole it from him, but he always says he wants to do more long-term projects, low volume, high quality projects for people with money, obviously.
Yeah, so let's say to the listeners out there, and I bragged about Dan's knowledge, and like our conversation really doesn't show the extent of what Dan can do. But I'll tell you, if you've got the money and you want to make the right car, get in contact with Dan. He can help you out there, man.
Yeah, it might take a while, especially while I'm starting out, but nothing's gonna come out here that's not great.
I think that's well said, to be honest, to anybody listening, because anything good's not gonna be quick unless you've done it a lot and you're getting something that everybody has, But if you're looking for something unique and you want to stand out, it's gonna take time, regardless if But yeah, I'll tell you, if I had $50,000, I'd be contacting Dan Walter, and I'd have a Mustang. I'd have a new Mustang, and it'd be nice.
Oh, it would be fun to build an S550. The new. I don't
know how much new Mustangs are, but we don't need all the. I don't need bells and whistles. I just need the car.
Yeah.
If you could give advice to people just starting out, what would you say to people in drifting?
Have as much fun as you can. So I guess it depends on your budget and who you are. I have fun building and tinkering almost as much as I do driving, but for most people I would probably say buy either a simple car or a car that's already done. And a lot of people are going to have that advice too. That's a big theme, is stop overbuilding your drift cars, which I agree for most people, but I'm crazy and I like to torture myself, so I like building fun stuff.
Let's say if you don't have a whole lot of money, what do you think would be the best car to look at? I think the most common car I've ever seen drifting was surprisingly was it a Nissan
350Z?
No, that's a common one too, but the 240.
You're surprised about that?
Yeah, I mean, now that I know more about the 240, I am not so surprised.
Okay.
But I was surprised when I first started joining you guys.
Yeah, 240s. I probably wouldn't suggest those these days. It's almost like having crypto. It's going up. You know.
Yeah.
So I'm
Yeah,
glad
yeah.
I have that Sylvia. You know, I'm glad my friend kept it for so long for me. That's really awesome. He did not have to do that, and um, I still have it. That's probably why I'm gonna keep the original engine, even though I'm not gonna fix it now because I don't know. Who knows? Maybe one day there'll be. It could go either way because it's kind of inflated from the drift tax now. So you know maybe that'll stick and they'll also become more collectible, or maybe they'll go back down. But right now, you don't want a 240. Everybody just wants too much money for them. I think the BMW E36s are decent chassis, but you know the older ones you're gonna run into a lot of engine problems. Mustangs are pretty good. There's starting to be a good aftermarket for suspension on them, and they're still not getting drift taxed yet. So you can get, you know, that's why I like my 2000 Mustang shells because they're just a dime a dozen. You treat the shell of the car kind of like a skateboard deck. You know, it's
Yeah.
you kind of like that
Yeah.
it's nice, but you're not gonna avoid a board slide.
That's really funny. That's a really good analogy because I skateboarded for 10 years, and I remember getting a new deck and purposely marking it up on the rail before I even used it. You know,
Yeah,
because I hated the new deck look. So I understand that analogy a lot. In fact, I wanted to grind. Like I wanted to do all the grinds to get all the board used.
yeah, yeah. I love it.
Let's see. You compete, don't you?
I don't compete anymore. I I don't know what it is. Maybe I'm too old for that. I'm just sick. It's not as fun. It gets too serious, and I honestly kind of become a little bit mean sometimes in the pits because I get really stressed out, and everything's time sensitive, and people are trying to help me get stuff done, and it needs to be done the right way, or I could end up stopped on the track. So I
Yeah.
don't like the stress, and I don't like being a dick, and I feel like it happens. I want to go out
I
there
have
and have
that
fun.
problem, to be
So
honest.
we're gonna
I
focus
have
more
trouble.
on media and more on having fun. Just go into the popular events where people are, and maybe paying some media people to come out there and help me film it and edit something. I want to
There you
focus
go.
more on fun and exposure for potential sponsors and stuff rather than winning. Who cares about winning? Sponsors don't care about
Yeah,
winning.
I think YouTube is a great platform for people these days. Because honestly, we just concentrate on your car and fix it when you can. Because like what you were just talking about, the competing, it's high strung, and when something breaks and you got to race tomorrow, it's like, God damn, what do you do? Or that's a pretty harsh analogy, but even next week you have to fix it now. You
Yeah,
know.
and there's a lot of stuff on my car that I don't like because I had to do it right then and make it to an event. And a lot of people, oh, why is it like that? Why is
Yeah.
it like that? It's because I had to, like, you know.
Yeah. There's no time. Yeah.
And
That's a pretty
then
good
a
point.
lot of times I do a lot of stuff I have to, and then if it works too well, I just leave it janky because it's working. And yeah,
So you're using what body year are you using right
it's a
now?
2000, so it's a new edge, is what most people call it. New edge SN95.
I think that's my favorite style. Is the the late 90s and the early 2000s.
Yeah,
Like
those
the
'03
saline
Cobras
on
look
that
good.
body looks. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I'm thinking. I really like those. Nowadays, the newest ones, they're starting to look pretty good again.
They really
I'm
are.
really liking the new ones. I didn't like when the '05 one came out. I was like, ew, like what would it ew? It's like,
Yeah, I liked them, but I can see what people didn't like. To be honest, like I could
yeah.
understand.
But I think when the 2010 came out, they started going in a really good
Yeah.
direction. 2010 was a good year for motorcycles too. That was when the center
Uh,
that was when the center weight YZ 450 came
yeah,
out, where they
Yamaha,
shifted the intake.
exactly, and put fuel injection on it.
Yeah, it was a big year.
Yeah, I still have never ridden one of those yet. Sad.
Like really,
Yeah.
obviously I haven't. I've never
I had
ridden
a
a dirt bike.
'09 at the time.
Yeah.
Terrible.
But I think the reason was it was cheap because of that reason, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
I don't know that. But yeah, that big change was a big deal. Wow. I think I came around the end of the questions.
No.
Oh yeah, there you go. Let's do that plug. Let's talk
Mhm.
about your what do you do for a living? How can you help the audience?
Okay, so I work to get negative, inaccurate items deleted on your credit report, or off of your credit report, as well as help you establish two forms of revolving credit, and teach you how to use them to build and keep your credit up. We obviously don't like return customers. We don't do any advertising. I mean, I guess I'm here, but our business model is we won't accept anybody that we're not very sure that we can help in 6 months or less. Um, that way, all of our customers are great references are good at getting references, and that's where all of our business comes from, is references.
It makes sense. Yeah, it's a word of mouth type thing,
Correct.
which is good. Like that means good things because companies that's if they survive on word of mouth, if the word of mouth is bad, then they don't survive.
Yeah, because I mean, a
Uh,
big part of our job is, trying to show people that we're not one of those normal companies. This industry is full of companies that just send out dispute templates, and they a lot of times can do more harm than good. They're the type of company that'll accept anybody. Oh, yeah, just give us $99 a month, and then they just kind of keep you on there forever. And oh, why is it not working? And it's it's bad. We turn down 2, 3 people a day. Each.
nice. I'll attest to this because I've been trying to fix my credit for 2 years, and I've been paying. I think they were. You're not ScoreSense. What are you?
Our company name, CPR Consumers.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. So I was going through something called ScoreSense, and it was just I could see my credit score, and they gave me like options for credit cards. I applied for the credit cards. Nothing actually
And
worked.
that's what most of it is. Most of those companies are credit card companies. I think it's Credit Karma is owned by Capital One, if I'm not mistaken. And that's all they're really trying to do is have an opportunity to offer you cards that you're gonna lose money on
Yeah,
because they know that nobody taught you about your credit. And
yeah, and it's true. And so Dan one day called me, and explained this, and I told him right away. I was like, yeah, I signed up, and I'll tell you, these guys, they've worked with me so much. Like no story is easy. Like nobody's situation is just an easy done, or you'd have done it yourself. If it was easy, it would have already been done.
mhm.
These guys have worked with me every step of the way, and you can tell they call me and remind me whenever I forget things, and it's
Yeah, we actually need to talk about that when we get off here.
yeah, we do actually, yeah. Uh, but yeah, I fully recommend it. I'm gonna leave some contact. I'm gonna leave some information inside of the description, and you can go from
I
there.
appreciate that. And yeah, like I said, we turned down plenty of people. The worst you can do is talk to me, get a little bit of advice, and then I say, maybe you don't have enough money at the time to pay off what may need to be, or like, or maybe you're ready to go and we can go whenever you want to. But the point is, if you give me a call, you're either gonna fix your credit or nothing bad's gonna happen. The worst that can happen
Yeah,
is I give you a
exactly.
little bit of advice, and you can call back later if you think you're more ready. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, cool. Well, I guess that's it.
Awesome.
Thank you,
Thanks for
Dan.
having me, man. This is fun. I want to do more of these if you
Yeah, and
have any other subject.
yeah, I was gonna say, expect to hear from Dan again. This is just about his car, but him and I are like-minded in many
I
things.
do a lot of weird
It's just where I
stuff.
wanted to start.
Big
I
nerd.
like he's one of the few people like me where when we go on the internet, we're looking at information. We're learning at all different types of things. It doesn't have to be it could be
To the
anything.
point that it
I
annoys
love it.
some of our friends.
Yeah, yeah, it's true. Some people like it at first, but